I'm a bit worried for the Houston Texans this season. This is a team that has quietly been to back-to-back divisional rounds in this AFC. The first time it was thanks to CJ Stroud doing an absolute masterclass. The second time it was thanks to D'Amico Ryan's coaching an absolutely masterclass defense led by guys like Stingley, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Kamari Lassiter stepping up, you name it. But to make it 3 seasons in a row, they're going to need to step up from a place that they definitely did not have it last year. And that's the offensive line. I mean, look at these line metrics, man. It's insane. This defensive line was incredible last season. First in the NFL in pass rush win rate, second in the NFL in run stop win rate. But the offensive line, it was the exact opposite. Second worst in the NFL in run blocking and bottom 10 in pass blocking as well. I mean, if you told me entering the season that the Texans defense last year would be a top 5 damn near unit in the league, I thought they would have been a serious contender. But for most of last season, it didn't really feel like that. And a big reason is, well, the offensive line and then the overall regression that came on the offensive side of the ball for the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud had a bit of a sophomore slump. A large part of that is due to the fact of just how bad the offensive line is, as well as the constant injuries that were faced on the perimeter for the Texans. Stephon Diggs obviously went down for the season. Tank Dell went down for the season and is now going to be out for pretty much all of this season too. So that was a big issue, and entering this season, both of those things surrounding CJ Stroud are still question marks. Yet, to be honest, the O-line is worse entering the year than where it was last season too, at least on paper. They let go of Laramie Tunzel, the star left tackle, who was top 10 when it came to pass block win rate on that blind side. And they've replaced him with Cam Robinson, who they've acquired, who was bottom 10 for the most part in terms of pressure rate. So yeah, that is a problem on the blind side. And these problems are also prevalent throughout the offensive line, with many guys that are either coming off of down years, have been off the boil for quite a while, or are rookies that need to prove themselves, like the second-round rookie Airtonis Ercete at right tackle. They've replaced both guards too. Kenyon Green was a failed first-round pick. Shaq Mason was on the decline. They let him go. And in their places, they have Titus Howard, who's kind of played all over the offensive line at this point. To go with him, they have a plethora of options for the other guard. They have Laken Tomlinson, who the Jets replaced for a reason. They have Ed Ingram, who the Vikings replaced for a reason. The reason being, do you remember that wild card game against the Rams? Interior offensive line of the Vikings? Come on, man. There's also room for concern when it comes to the Texans supporting cast. Now, Nico Collins, that number 1 wide receiver out of right here, he's outstanding. He was number 3 in yards per route run last season. He's awesome. He's a star. But outside of that, Tank Dells and Stephon Diggs are Stephon. You might as well say State Farm for real. Jesus. Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs are not around anymore. Dalton Schultz is coming off a pretty down year after getting his payday. So someone's got to step up on the front of this Texans perimeter game, because the leading receiver, when you take away, the guys who left last season and Dalton Schultz, is Joe Mixon, the running back. The two guys that Houston has brought in to fill in this vacuum, Christian Kirk from Jacksonville, obviously he had his bright days, but kind of fell out of favor in Jacksonville. And then the rookie, Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State, who's exciting, but once again, unproven. So there's room for both of these guys to kind of either hit their, past form in the case of Kirk, or blossom into their potential in Jaden Higgins. And that is a vital factor in regards to this Texan success, because for an offense that really took a step back last season, in large part due to the circumstances around CJ Stroud, they need to be able to reintroduce positivity there. The main source of positivity last year was kind of in the run game. The Texans' run game wasn't very efficient, let's say, but they got good value at least out of Joe Mixon and good volume. Unfortunately, it looks like Joe Mixon is entering the season with a lingering injury. Unclear if he'll be ready for the start of the season or when he'll return. If so, that could be an issue for a run game that obviously the O-line for that was not good last year. And, as nice as Joe Mixon was from a volume standpoint, the efficiency was not there. And the replacement for Joe Mixon as of now is Nick Chubb, who I love Nick Chubb, man, and I'm rooting for this man so hard given everything that he has gone through. But it is hard to not least at least be a bit concerned in regards to the amount of volume that he can take on after everything that he has dealt with. And behind him is Damian Pierce. And, Damian Pierce is 3 years ago. 3 years ago in the timeline. What might matter the most, though, actually, what probably does matter the most, though, is the fact that the Texans have a new offensive coordinator to try and redesign and revitalize this offense that seriously regressed last season. And to do that, they're taking a seed from the McVay tree that is the Rams passing game coordinator, Nick Caley. Texans fans will tell you that they were not a big fan of Bobby Slowick's play calling last season. And to be honest, even the season before that, I saw rumblings of it. And a lot of it boils down to the fact that the Texans offense didn't really feel adaptable. And you can see that in the metrics. Their first half offense was better in terms of scoring, but if you look back at last season, in the second half, the Texans offense was dead last in points. There were many, many games last season where the Texans would face the same issues, where they would struggle to deal with pressure, and it became a pattern game after game after game. And yes, obviously a large part of that is the O-line, which is still a problem and is still a reason I'm concerned with the Texans entering the season. But part of that is also the adaptability of the coordinator to try and guard against one of the biggest weaknesses in your team. Nick Caley from the McVay tree, listen, I have no reasons to not believe in the McVay tree, so I'm going to hope for signs of improvement from a play calling perspective, but there's still personnel concerns throughout this Texans offense, and for a unit that wasn't so great last season and is honestly on paper probably worse this season, I am a bit concerned for them. Let's move to the defense, which, as we kind of touched on, was absolutely phenomenal last season. The pass rush was ridiculous. The secondary was also ridiculous. And in a large part, it's due to the four guys, the two edges, Will Anderson and Neil Hunter, and then the two corners, Stingley and Kamari Lassiter, which, man, what a revelation that guy was as a rookie. You put that together with Jalen Petrie, who's a mighty fine safety, and they brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson to go ahead and be the other safety. There's a lot of promising things there. I will say, though, there are some places of vulnerability for the Texans defense. Not extreme vulnerability, slight vulnerability. That is on the interior defensive line, where they've brought in Sheldon Rankins as a starter. He was a starter for the Texans 2 years ago. Then he went to Cincinnati and had a kind of down season. So just something to look out for in terms of if teams try to pound the rock in the middle. The linebacker room, in terms of the off-ball guys for the Texans as well, they're full of players that can do very specific things for them. I think Al-Shaair, Tutu are pretty good for helping that run defense kind of get to a decent level, given the not as strong of a strength, I guess. Not as strong as a strength. What am I saying? Given the weakness that is relatively there on the interior defensive line. Add in the fact that Danielle Hunter had a career year last season. He has his payday now. After that, he's now the second highest paid pass rusher. At least at one point he was the second highest. I don't know if he still is. But let's not forget, though, he is 31 years old. And last season's efficiency was pretty damn good for Danielle Hunter. I don't know if we might be seeing some negative regression in that regard, at least in terms of the sack output. But I have no worries in terms of like Will Anderson, Stingley, and Lassiter. I think overall the core of that pass defense is still going to be very strong. It might be the run defense that takes a slight step back. I don't maybe expect the Texans defense to be as elite as last season, but to be as elite as last season is pretty impressive nonetheless. I mean, yeah, for the Houston Texans, the franchise pillars are all there. CJ Stroud, obviously from year one, he's shown you what he can do as a quarterback in this league. Nico Collins, exceptional wide receiver one. I love that man. D'Amico Ryans has been a great coach, obviously revitalizing this Houston Texan team. Will Anderson was a, top pass rush selection in the first round. Derek Stingley, top corner selection in the first round. All the pillars at all the key positions are there. But all around that point, there is room for questions and curiosity and searching to find the answers that the Texans are going to need if they want to get back to the divisional round and build on that. I honestly think they're could be a threat for them in the division. They're really lucky they play in what I believe to be the easiest division in football. They're playing in a division where the offensive lines are just as bad. Just look at the Jaguars' offensive line and the Titans' offensive line. They're playing in a division where they have the best quarterback, where they have the most proven head coach, where they have the best defense as well. So in the end, it's kind of stupid to try and predict against the Texans to win the division. But I do think it could be closer than a lot of people think. It may come down to the wire if one of these AFC South teams can take a leap. The barometer for this Texans team is not just winning the AFC South, though. It's being one of the 4 last teams standing. And so, yeah, I probably think they win the division, but I'm not getting excited for the Texans if they win the division at this point. I'm more so looking at how can they become a contender. And when you look at how much more potent the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals are offensively, I think there's a at least significant gap between 4 of the top contenders in the AFC offensively. And while the Texans defense is obviously better than most of those teams, I don't think the gap is as big there as it is from an offensive standpoint, at least entering the season. There's a lot of pressure on CJ Stroud to kind of deliver for this team to reach the heights that it wants to reach, along with Nick Caley. And unfortunately for the Texans right now, despite the players that I love on this roster, there are a lot of positional holes that I do not love on this roster. And I think that's going to end up being the shortcomings of the Houston Texans. But yeah, that's it for the Texans season preview. I must say, I don't think we will be able to do 32 individual videos for each team season preview. There's only 3 weeks left until the season. I'm recording this on August 15th. So we're going to have to pick our battles wisely. Might have to go to the divisional breakdown. We'll see. I definitely have some teams I still want to make some individual videos on, though. Until next time, though, make sure to, subscribe for the next preview, leave a like, check out the Twitch, and till next time, peace.